If any of you are familiar with Doom, you'll know that its shotguns are relatively well regarded. The pump action, reliable, rhythmic. The SSG, the super shotgun, punchy, powerful. So much so that it often leaves its predecessor sulking somewhere in its shadow. But hey, Icarus here, and welcome to yet another edition of Doom Mod Madness, your guide to the wide, wacky world of Doom mods, where this time round I'll be introducing you to Shotgun-O-Rama, a mod that seeks to re-establish the primacy of the pump action. Firstly, you can have any gun you like, as long as it's a pump-action shotgun, and secondly, this ain't no ordinary pump action. This baby comes with 3 distinct upgradable modes. You've got Flak Shot, Burst Fire, and Slug. These do firstly need to be acquired during the course of gameplay before you can utilize them, but once you do, you get to keep them for the long haul. Flak Shot can be useful in a small number of ways. Firstly, because the rounds bounce and ricochet, you can in fact fire these around corners or lob them over crates and deal with enemies before they even have a chance to see you. The other useful aspect of Flak Shot is that the rounds in fact penetrate, which is quite handy for dealing with crowds of lesser enemies, especially if they're several ranks deep. Burst Shot does exactly what you imagine. It does a rapid 3-burst volley, good for dealing high amounts of damage in a small degree of time, and Slug Shot is a much more focused, dense damage-dealing shot. But in all honesty, where all of these start to get really interesting is with those aforementioned upgradable aspects. Each mode that you pick up here will also have a more powerful variant that will occasionally drop during the course of gameplay, and this can include energy-infused flak, electrically charged burst fire shots, and quite possibly one of the most unbalanced upgrades of the lot, the explosive slug. The explosive slug shot is absurdly powerful. For sake of reference, it will reliably jib lesser enemies, entertainingly so if you're using something like NashGore. It will 2-shot Mancubi, it will 2-shot Hell Knights, it will, if you're lucky, 2-shot an Archvile, but in most occasions it'll take about 3. It's in all honesty the kind of upgrade that can quite quickly trivialize any given playthrough. And in that regard, I would advise trying to seek out map sets for this that tend to get a bit more crowded than most. The OP feeling nature of the slug shot probably isn't helped by the fact that most map sets I played through had this as a relatively early pickup, and if I was going to rebalance anything, I would have this as quite potentially one of the more rarer drops, because once you've had a taste of this, and then you pick up the electrified burst shot, the energy-infused flak, they just feel very subdued in comparison. Don't get me wrong, they still have their useful applications, it's just that none of them feel anywhere near as satisfying as pinging off an explosive slug shot and just watching a whole host of imps pop. Now, believe it or not, it is possible to run out of ammo for the shotgun here. In the excitement of the action, you can easily lose track, and if you're not keeping on top of it, you will be left with the only recourse left being to hit them over the head with the butt of your weapon. Mercifully, this does result in a few things. Firstly, it does cause enemies to drop additional health vials, as well as small ammo pickups, so you can kind of rebuild yourself even if you hit 0. On the polar opposite end of the scales, there's also a BFG mode. Yeah, you heard me. If the weapon wasn't absurdly OP enough with the likes of the explosive slug shot mode, the BFG mode essentially turns this weapon into an extinction level event for any demons unfortunate enough to be in the same vicinity as you. And just to illustrate how completely trivializing of levels packed to the gills with enemies this can be, I present to you this particular level from Valiant. I'll be honest with you, after a while I almost start to feel bad for the demons. Almost. Not completely. Almost. The guilt, you see, is almost certainly overridden by the glee, because you can't not smile when you've got something that feels this ludicrously OP in your hands. But guess what? If you thought we were done shotgun maxing, you are sorely mistaken, because there is yet one more aspect of this mod that I have yet to reveal to you. You see, sprinkled in amongst all of these other upgrades is a separate primary fire modifier. For the sake of balance, as absurd as that sounds, the effects of these particular pickups will only last for the duration of whatever map you find them on. And in terms of what they do, well, how does Dragon's Breath rounds sound? How do freezing ice shots sound? How about just straight up full auto? Ooh, and while I'm at it, let's not forget about the Berserk upgrade, which turns the melee buttstock into an even more formidable blunt force attack, with a little bit of range if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, wonderfully ridiculous shotgun mod, and despite its complete trivializing of levels played on ultra-violence with significant portions of enemies, I would say I've had a fair amount of fun. Let's be honest, it's hard to do a shotgun wrong, but when you do a shotgun right... Anyways, if you fancy giving Shotgun-O-Rama a whirl for yourself, you'll find the link, as usual, in the description below. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Feel free to leave a like or even a subscribe if you haven't already. And if you've got any good mods to suggest me for future editions of Mod Madness, why not let me know down in the comments. Until next time, this has been Mr. Icarus. Thank you very much for watching. Icarus out.